On my kicker tonight, I have a story to tell. Once upon a time, a country teetered on the brink of a disaster. The name of that country is South Africa. The year was 1994. It was sometime in April 1994 that South Africa's much-awaited transition to majority rule faced the prospect of imploding in ethnic violence. Two African parties, Nelson Mandela's African National Congress, ANC, and Chief Mangosuthu Buthelez's Inkatha Freedom Party, IFP, were locked in a deadly standoff that was playing out through deadly street clashes and violence in townships. The conflict was part tribal and part political. ANC wanted a central government flanked by weak provinces, while the Zulu tribe fronted Inkatha Party wanted a federal system. You see, it's a bit like what Kenya experienced in the Lancaster independence process in the 60s, where the Kenyatta Oginga-led KANU Party wanted a central government, while the Ngala, Muliro, and Moi axis of KADU demanded Majimbo, or federal system. Now back to South Africa. Global diplomats scrambled to save South Africa's first ever all-race democratic elections that were only days away. Big names such as Henry Kissinger and Lord Peter Carrington were enlisted as the concerned international community pursued a mediated solution. Coincidentally, there were no Africans in the diplomatic rescue team. An evangelist named Cassidy saw this as a gap and started advocating for the inclusion of an African named Washington Okumu in the mediation process. Okumu happened to be a Kenyan. He was named a special advisor to the Kissinger-Carrington mediation team. But the warring parties were too far apart that the mediators left South Africa without even starting the substantive negotiations. But Washington Okumu was requested not to leave and instead tasked to give it another try. Okumu met the Inkatha Freedom Party leader, Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi, at an airport in Johannesburg and persuaded him that he had no future outside the first democratically elected all-race government and that he must participate in the elections. On the 19th of April 1994, that is only 7 days to the election, Washington Okumu, a Kenyan, penned his signature as a witness to a memorandum of agreement signed by Nelson Mandela, the then President F.W. de Klerk, and Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Now, whatever other intrigues involved, Washington Aggrey Jalango Okumu, a Kenyan from Nyangoma village, Siaya County, went down in history as the man who saved South Africa's all-race elections in April 1994. May Okumu rest in peace. A few years later, I became a journalist and met a man who was considered one of the most powerful and influential figures in the inner circle of the then President Daniel Arap Moi. I visited this man when he retired to his vast cattle ranch in Eldoret. The late Mark Kiptarbey Too was a simple, personable, and I must say, humorous man. He shared many inside stories, some which he required of me absolute confidentiality. Then he told me about complex diplomatic assignments he was quietly deployed to by President Moi. There was the story of an American hostage named Terry White, held in Lebanon by Shiite extremists for 4 years. Mark Too told me how he was dispatched to Tehran with a special message to the all-powerful Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Of course, I thought that was truly high-end. Then Mark Too told me how President Moi dispatched him to look for Mozambican rebel leader Alfonso Dhlakama, who was dragging his feet about participating in peace talks convened in Rome by Pope John Paul II. Let us not embarrass the Pope, Moi instructed Toh. Lonro company tycoon, the late Tiny Rowland, gave MacTow a private jet to find Lacama and bring him to Rome. He told me he did. Then there was Ambassador Bethel Kiplagat, who was nearly getting stuck somewhere in a Ugandan bush. Oh, that's a really long story for another day. But in short, Kenyans, the story is Kenyans used to perform some truly complex, even spectacular diplomatic assignments many, many kilometers away from the KICC. That is the end of my story. Brother, that's my kicker tonight.